Greetings, my friends. Please consider supporting me in my war to save pop culture by subscribing to my channel and possibly even becoming a channel member for exclusive videos, access to Doomcock emojis, and more. And if you like this video in particular, please consider using the new Super Thanks feature and putting a tip in the tip jar located next to the like buttons down at the bottom of the video. Thank you for watching, and now, on to the video. You know, I love great cinema. My whole channel is founded on the idea that excellence matters, particularly excellence in pop culture. I believe that art reflects our highest ideals. The art of a culture both feeds the souls of citizens in a free society and exemplifies through illustration and example our highest ideals. These aims, inspiration on a personal level, and perpetuation of our identity as a civilization are antithetical to the hive-minded, conformity-enforcing, freedom-curtailing pod people of the woke movement. Their aims are to eliminate individuality, to devalue and degrade the pop culture heroes of the past, and most particularly, if there's one thing they cannot stand and hate above all else, it's quality and personal achievement, largely because these coddled gray little participation trophy winners have never been winners. They hate cultural icons like Captain Kirk, Batman, Captain America, because these icons represent the rugged individuality and morality that this country was founded on, and they hate this country for that reason. Achievement by others is a gob of spit in the faces of those who have never achieved anything, and that's why they attack pop culture. That's why they've seized Hollywood studios and writers' rooms and have resolved to drag the films and shows we watch into the mediocre gray ooze where they perpetually dwell, trying to discredit, deface, and destroy all the inspirational parts of our culture and to establish a new baseline of pathetic, substandard performance, a level they are able to aspire to. The garbage coming out of Disney, Marvel, and Lucasfilm today is a direct reflection of the world they want to build, where people with no talent, qualifications, or passion can get paid big bucks doing substandard work that destroys Western culture one ideal, one icon, one franchise at a time. It makes me sick, and in particular, one tweet from Grace Randolph forwarded to me today by my friend Gary Ambrosia made me so damn angry with its insipid and smug stupidity. It made me drop the video I was working on prior to this and go right to this story. It involves some allegedly massive problems faced by the great Francis Ford Coppola on the set of his huge science fiction film, Megalopolis, an independent film, by the way, that he is funding himself from his own pocket. Now, there's a lot of controversy swirling around this film right now, and I'm going to try to update you guys on what's happening as Hollywood vultures descend on Francis Ford Coppola for daring once again to work outside their system, and Grace Randolph tries to kick him when he's down on Twitter, but only manages to kick herself squarely in the ass.
I haven't heard a lot about Megalopolis, but the fact that Coppola is directing and producing it automatically makes it worthy of our attention, Doomcock. But what the hell is going on with the film right now?
Well, that's in dispute, Harvey Cthulhu. This is all happening very quickly, but let me tell you, this whole thing makes me furious because I love cinema, and one of the gods of cinema is the great Francis Ford Coppola. And when I see him being attacked by the mainstream media, no doubt under the direction of woke wankers in Hollywood doing their best to take another cultural icon down, and in particular, when I see Grace Randolph putting the boot into Coppola when he's down with maybe pound for pound the stupidest tweet I've ever seen, it fills me with a rage that makes me thank God I have this helmet to keep my head from blowing up. Let's examine the events of the last 24 hours, and then I'll get to Randolph's tweet, and then get ready. I have a rant incoming. The Hollywood Reporter kicked things off with an article titled Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis in Peril Amid Ballooning Budget, Crew Exodus. In this article, they write, quote, Francis Ford Coppola's latest movie, the sci-fi tinged Megalopolis, has descended into chaos according to multiple sources. The movie, currently halfway through shooting in Atlanta, has in the last week lost key creative talent, including its production designer and supervising art director. That's on top of losing the entire visual effects team in the first part of December. To many insiders, the production is giving severe Apocalypse Now vibes, and it's one on which the iconoclastic 83-year-old director is breaking a cardinal Hollywood rule: never spend your own money. Megalopolis has been a passion project decades in the making for the filmmaker, who turned heads in the fall of 2021 when news broke that he would be self-financing the $120 million film, partially with the tens of millions he made selling his popular Northern California wineries. The budget has since expanded and the film is now about halfway through its 80 to 90-day shoot, but a production source says it's unclear whether the production can go forward as planned. The film centers on an architect who seeks to rebuild New York City as a utopia after a disaster. Sources say Coppola, who has never made an effects-heavy movie, fired almost his entire visual effects team December 9th, with the rest of that department soon following. Between firings and resignations, a source says the film now has no art department. One talent representative, whose client was among those fired, says the dismissal was a blessing in disguise. Quote, "It was absolute madness being on set," unquote, this person says. Despite the crew exits, Coppola is pressing on, hiring new staff this week, according to sources. In March 2022, Coppola told The Hollywood Reporter he was putting his own money into the film, which has no distributor, in order to make it his way. Said Coppola, quote, "There's a certain way everyone thinks a film should be, and it rubs against the grain if you have another idea. People can be very unaccepting, but sometimes the other idea represents what's coming in the future. That is worthy of being considered," unquote. However, a few hours after that article was published, Coppola responded in an article on Deadline titled "Francis Ford Coppola, No Apocalypse on Megalopolis." The article reads in part, quote, "Exclusive. I love my cast. I love what I'm getting each day. I am on schedule and on budget, and that's what's important to me," Francis Ford Coppola told Deadline from the Atlanta set of Megalopolis. The iconic filmmaker disputed a trade report that conflated turnover in the visual effects and art departments to paint a picture of a runaway train, using words like peril, ballooning budget, crew exodus, and chaos. Coppola acknowledged that there's been some turnover, but he believes the high drama has been reserved for what he sees each day in dailies. He has seen budgets balloon on some of his past films, and he once famously replaced Harvey Keitel with Martin Sheen weeks into the production of Apocalypse Now. None of what is happening on Megalopolis meets that category.
Well, of course, famously on Apocalypse Now, when Martin Sheen had a heart attack during the shoot, Coppola was recorded saying he did not want the story to leak to the press or the film would be dead, and that Marty Sheen is not dead until I say he's dead. So, this kind of damage control is not foreign to Francis Ford Coppola.
That's not the point, Skull of Calderon. You're correct, and obviously something is going on with Megalopolis, but understand, this is not a Hollywood production. This is a very big-budget indie film, the kind we in the movement are sworn to support, from a towering icon of cinema who has earned the benefit of every possible doubt. But Hollywood, through its media organs, is proclaiming this as a catastrophe and doing their level best to kill this movie with negative publicity because it's outside of their control. And no doubt because Coppola is a beneficiary of what the woke pod people call white privilege, this is a timed attack to try and torpedo Coppola and what looks to be a fascinating production. This should enrage every fan of greatness in cinema and greatness in human endeavor. This is a guy who is making a film with passion. This is a man who has throughout his career operated from a place of great personal artistic conviction, putting his own money on the line, which is not a flaw, as Hollywood wants to put it. It's a conviction in the rightness of his cause. It's a badge of honor to put your own money on the line, just like he did with Apocalypse Now, just like Lucas did with Empire Strikes Back. These great filmmakers knew if they wanted to create art free of the control of the Hollywood machine, they had to put their money where their mouths were, and I salute them for that. And we need to rally to Coppola's defense here, because at this point, an attack on Coppola's Megalopolis is an attack on independent cinema, and this must not stand. But now comes the thing that angered me so much that my hands were shaking as I made this video. Grace Randolph. Gary Ambrosia made my blood pressure skyrocket when he sent me this tweet from Grace Randolph saying, quote, "Not so easy to make a Marvel-level movie, is it, Coppola?"
Uh-oh. Shit on a stickaroo. I think Doomcock's about to blow his top.
Not so easy to make a Marvel-level movie, is it, Coppola? This is perhaps the stupidest tweet, pound for pound, that I have ever read. A tweet that reflects a level of ignorance and arrogance that literally took my breath away. I've got news for Grace Randolph, because obviously she has no fucking idea what she's talking about here. Francis Ford Coppola is one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, and he has almost literally been through hell in his career. Grace Randolph maybe thinks this Megalopolis has Coppola over his head, taking delight in the situation and affording her the opportunity to put a little kick to him in while he's down, a little lecturing, a little tut-tutting over what she perceives as Coppola in over his head. Well, let me tell you something, Grace. Let me educate you a little bit. Apocalypse Now was one of the most logistically complex, spiritually crushing, nightmarishly fraught productions of all time. Megalopolis is nothing to a guy like Coppola. He went out in the jungle, risked his entire fortune, was dealing with actual military units in the film that would fly away to attack rebels in the mountains in the middle of massively complex shots. He had a lead actor who had a heart attack. He had his set destroyed by a fucking monsoon, Grace. So don't you smugly imply from your little Twitter tower that this towering figure of a man doesn't know what he's doing when it comes to big pictures, because he knows that more than anyone currently alive in Hollywood. This is the same smug assurance that is so typically expressed by the woke youngsters with no idea of history. Coppola doesn't know what it takes to make a Marvel-level movie? That's just managing a bunch of effects guys on computers in air-conditioned comfort. That's nothing compared to dealing with shooting in a war zone with real military hardware piloted by real military personnel who can leave in the middle of a shot at any time to go attack rebels in the mountains, leaving a hole in the production that could be days long. There are no tigers and poisonous snakes and crazy Dennis Hoppers to deal with in CGI studios, Grace. And I tell you this, Marvel has yet to produce one movie that even approaches the sheer genius of Apocalypse Now, which is one of the greatest films ever made. Hell, Coppola almost got fired on The Godfather, for God's sakes. That was a major studio production. Do you know nothing of film history? Coppola hasn't had an easy shoot in his life, so save your little snipes and barbs for someone who isn't a colossus in his field. When you say shit like that, you only embarrass yourself. Do not mock those who have achieved more than you ever will, and do not stand by saying nothing while geniuses are beset on all sides by ants. I am furious over this, and I hope that Coppola's Megalopolis will survive this attempt by Hollywood to take him down. He deserves to do it his way. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, oh yes, stay angry. Ha 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 ha.